Time for some acceleration. Oh God. It is blistering. It really is. Ah, Bullitt. It's the slowest of slow-burning movies that makes you wait for what feels like years to get to the best bit, which then only lasts a matter of minutes. Ford very kindly invited me to the drive of the 2019 Ford Mustang Bullitt, the latest tribute to the original car. The one Frank Bullitt, played by Steve McQueen, used to chase down the baddies who were driving a Dodge Charger in that iconic car chase. I say latest because there was a Mustang GT Bullitt in 2001 and then again in 2007. Both were limited edition, both came in the famous Highland Green in the movie, and both came with unique extras to justify the higher price tag. The car you're seeing now is of course the one McQueen drove, but that obviously isn't him at the wheel, and no, those aren't the streets of San Francisco. But that's okay, because the location of the launch event took place in the south of France. Obviously. Let's not dwell on geographical accuracy though, because Bullitt is 50 this year. Coincidentally, that is the same age Steve McQueen was when he passed away, having undergone what was described as an unnecessary surgery for a rare and incurable cancer he got from exposure to asbestos. Just 4 years prior to his death in 1980, McQueen was the highest paid movie star in the world, highlighting his on-screen presence and cool factor, both of which have become timeless. Timeless like the 1968 Mustang GT390 he drove in the movie, which was the first of its kind to feature a big block V8. Before that, it was all a lot less, well, meaty. There were actually two cars used for filming, one for the stunts that supposedly turned up at a scrapyard in Mexico recently. The other, though, was actually bought by an anonymous Warner Bros. Executive, who then sold it to a police detective. Not even joking. He then sold it to the Kiernan family, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right, for a few $1,000s, who originally used it for getting milk from the shops, doing the school run, and other errands. These days it leads a much more leisurely life, but the same family still own it. Based on how cool it looks and the sentimental value, can you really blame them? The fact it's now worth millions of dollars also probably has something to do with it. Hello, my name is Ben Griffin and today I am driving the Ford Mustang Bullitt. This car is not as powerful as the American one. That gets 475 brake horsepower and some of the bits from the GT350, which the UK doesn't get. But this thing is still 14 brake horsepower more. Now with this car they've actually removed some of the badges to simplify it, and that was what they did in the movie. That cost £6,000 more, but you do get a lot more equipment. So you get the premium sound system. You also get that Bullitt rear badge, 19-inch high-gloss black alloys, a 1000-watt sound system with 12 speakers, Sync 3 navigation pack, Brembo 6-piston calipers painted in red, green stitching throughout the interior, and an increased top speed. All cars also get rev matching on the downshift, which keeps the car balanced at speed, makes you look like a pro driver, and everyone within 10 square miles knows where you are. Of course, the main thing is that this isn't the EcoBoost engine. You only can have the 5-litre V8. You can only have the 6-speed manual, which has the 8-ball gear shifter, which is really comfy and just looks cool. But of course, that means it is very noisy, as we shall now. And it shakes the car as well. You could just do that all day. Be quite happy. Of course, you're not going to spend 40-odd thousand on a car that doesn't move, unless you want to buy one of these and hope it goes up in value, which it might. It's limited run, not limited number. 350 came to the UK. They've all been sold, so you're going to have to hope somebody changes their mind if you want one. But anyway, so there's few enough that actually it probably won't lose value. At least not a lot, and then at some point it will creep back up, particularly if everything becomes hybrid and electric. This is the antithesis of eco-minded driving, because it is a 5-litre V8 It's beefy, it's a huge car, hugely inefficient, but oh so nice to drive. In fact, CO2 emissions are a planet-choking 277 grams per kilometre, if such a thing bothers you, that is, while fuel economy can be as low as single digits if you drive like McQueen did in Bullitt. In fairness, at motorway speeds it's capable of reasonable fuel economy, as long as Mr. Leadfoot doesn't come to visit. The problem with Mustangs is that they were never the best at handling, particularly the really old ones. But that wasn't really an issue with the revamped Mustang, and the most recent follow-up is even better. For a car this big and this heavy, we're en route Napoleon. These are very twisty corners, but it is really well composed. And it's got enough go that when you do, it sails along. Being a Ford, you would rightly assume it is less luxurious and less refined than its Germanic rivals. And that's true to an extent, but the difference is bearable, especially when sitting in those big old comfy Recaro seats. It definitely feels more premium than it used to. The old Mustang, the new old Mustang, if we can call it that, it was nice. It was considerably better than the 2007 and 8 one, which was pretty awful, and the 2001 one, neither of which were great. So when they updated it 2-3 years ago, it was night and day. It really, really was. And this thing is just that little bit more comfortable. It's got the nicer digital dash display behind the wheel. It's a bit softer, more forgiving to drive, a little bit more livable. However, when you gun it, the suspension now adjusts and firms up. So everything about it's a bit more sophisticated and a bit more adaptable, and that just makes it better at everything. It's just a generally quieter car when you want it to be, more relaxed. If you're in traffic, you've got a headache, just want to get home, this can quieten down nicely. But if you want to just burn rubber, act like an idiot, and just hear that V8, then this thing will more than oblige. The Mustang before this was actually, on occasion, you had to work it quite hard to get the noise. This thing, we're currently in track. Normal is quite loud, track is definitely loud, race, really, 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 really loud, as in almost annoyingly so. And it doesn't sound too synthetic at all. There's a little bit of amplification, I think, going on. But generally it's nice. I actually like it in normal because you get the contrast of it just sounding angry in the background, and then suddenly when you want it and you gun it, you get the thunder. And I really like the yin and yang thing there. But you can customize all of this in the My mode. So if you prefer the quiet exhaust but you want everything else full attack, you can. Or likewise, keep the car suspension soft but just enjoy the noise. It's all possible. In some ways that's good and bad. It's good because you can get exactly what you want, but sometimes it's nice not to have to do it yourself. It's a bit like going into a restaurant and then sitting in the kitchen with the chef and telling him to do certain things how you want it. But that's cars these days, the Gran Turismo generation, of which I am a part of. It's fine. Just like Bullitt had its negatives, mainly the glaring continuity issues during the chase scene that were the result of filming on real roads, the 29 Mustang Bullitt is an imperfect beast, but not so much that it needs a visit to the glue factory. Now I will say this sometimes is a little bit skittish. It's not unpredictable in how it feels to steer, or the suspension, that rides quite nicely. It's just little patches of small undulations sort of upset it a bit, and it's at those points you feel like this is a budget V8, if that makes sense. You know, it can trick you into being premium a reasonable amount of the time, but occasionally there's just that little glimpse behind the scenes where, okay, costs have been saved in this way or that way. Another example being the interior. Now I've always quite liked it. When you had the dials, it said ground speed, and it was just a little bit more special than in the Focus RS. The Focus RS interior is awful. There are other reasons why that wasn't my favourite hot hatch, but the interior did play a big role in that, definitely. This car, at least you've got some flippy type switches that are silver, and wheel is big and beefy, and of course in this you've got the Recaro seats as well, with some Highland green for the Recaro writing, just to keep in theme. You can have the car in black if you want, and if you're slightly insane, because the original Mustang was Highland green. Why would you want a black Bullitt Mustang? I have absolutely no idea, but the option is there. No idea how many people have done that, but probably more than I would like to say.
Actually, since filming this video, Ford told me that not one black Mustang Bullitt has been sold in the UK allocation. My faith in humanity has been restored.
Now, there was a point when I actually wanted to make the Mustang the Recombu car of the year. And my boss, Mr. Rory Reid of Top Gear fame now, he said that was ridiculous. He now owns one, so maybe it just took time for him to realise his mistake, but there were other cars that were probably more deserving. But in my mind, when this car was, I think, £34,000, it was a bargain. It looked phenomenal. You got insane reactions from people, huge amounts of appreciation, and it was nice to drive. It was a little bit rough around the edges, but it was nice to drive slowly. The thing with the V8 is the older ones, as beautiful as they are and as nice to listen to as they are, they're not very good at handling. I've driven a few and it's bad. You really want to uprate the brakes and the suspension, although then it's not an original car, or much less original. But they're not great. But this captured that essence of the nice noise and just plodding along and relaxing and cruising on an open road. You didn't need to go fast to enjoy the drive, as you do with quite a few cars now. They're quite muted, and you have to push harder to get something back, something unexpected. But this, here on Route Napoleon, okay, these roads are beautiful and they're very smooth and they're winding. This is a perfect road for a car. Maybe too perfect, because it's incredibly unforgiving. There are some very large trees and steep drops that would mangle you and the vehicle nicely if you got it wrong. But I'm not bothered that I'm stuck behind a VW Golf taxi and a truck carrying a lot of timber. I don't mind, because it's just comfortable, it's relaxed, it just feels right.
As I said earlier, I'm unsure how well this car will hold its value, if at all, but then there is a more important reason why you'd buy it, one you can't put a price on.
This is a dying breed. I love cars. I love V8s, V10s, V12s. That's what I grew up on. I had a poster for Ferrari F40, Porsche 959. I 100% understand the petrol head thing, because that's somehow I made it into my dream job, and for that I'm very thankful. But at the same time, I recognise that this can't go on forever. Whether or not you believe in global warming, we're going to run out of oil. Okay, it's going to run out. And even if not, people want to save money. If fuel is hugely expensive, you're going to buy electric, because you plug it in and it costs a tenner a night to recharge a Tesla than 90 to 100 quid to fill up your average people carrier estate or whatever. And so inevitably, cars like this are going to fall from grace.
The simple fact is that there are very few cars like the Mustang, and even fewer that cost under 50 grand, with a thunderous V8 and looks that can snap necks.
So although the Bullitt version is more expensive, it's still probably the right time to give this a go. At some point, it's just not going to be financially viable for Ford to bother with it. We've already seen some engines, some cars disappear because of WLTP regulations. It's happening. Whether you guys in the comments want to tell me, you're wrong, we'll always have V8. Maybe in America, because America seems to have Trump in charge and he's not a big eco-friendly type, is he? But it's happening. UK, it's happening. Europe, it's happening. I've come into my dream job at a point where I've seen the likes of the McLaren Senna and some phenomenal hypercars and supercars, but I've also seen them becoming electrified. I've seen them evolving, being that little bit eco-conscious instead of all-out insane power. And that's also because we're reaching maximum physics for road tyres, and there's only so much we can get out of the combustion engine. Having electric gives you more power, more flexibility, maybe even more reliability. Things have changed massively. But the Mustang, it really hasn't. I mean, I've heard talks they're going to do a hybrid one of this, but if you want a lot of horsepower that sounds nice and you get attention, this car, it's still hard to beat. Really, really hard to beat. And if you can afford the Bullitt one, why not? It's the coolest. It's the one Steve McQueen would have liked the most. And he was awesome. So you'd listen to him. And actually, he tried to buy the original one of this car in the film. There were two. One was crashed, later found, used for the stunts. Then there was the hero car that McQueen drove around in. And that's just resurfaced. But the guy that bought it wouldn't sell it to him. And I have a feeling if you bought one of these yourself, you probably wouldn't want to either.